games I've ever had in Age of Empires have been Holy Romans versus English. Just these heavy wars of attrition. They both essentially have infinite gold sources, and they're just like throwing men-at-arms against each other, which just kill each other at snail's pace. It's pretty crazy for sure.
And looks game feed. Almost.
The dreaded feed has disappeared. We have been cast into the actual Dark Ages, my friends, but don't worry, we will be back. Hey, there we go. Back in business.
All right, back we go. Indeed, huge shout out to Vodka, by the way, doing the observing for us. He's doing a great job for us over here. So looks like we're back on track with this one. And spawning in on the left side, we'll have a MarineLorD playing as the HRE in blue. And on the right side, it is going to be Mr. Viper playing as the Red English.
Yeah, certainly so. It looks like we get the Friar Tuck out here pretty quick. Going to be inspiring all the workers for the Holy Roman Empire. Certainly very cool having that character in the earlier ages and for those skirmishes and, pumping up all the jams on your villagers. Now for the English, I don't know if we've seen the really early farms yet, although I suppose we're quite early in the game here. But like you said, that's kind of become the meta, right? Setting up an early mill for the English. And yeah, we're seeing that right now. The Viper has his mill set up just away from his base to make sure that he's got that full tile. And the first farms have been placed.
Yeah, he's also grabbing wheelbarrow for himself. So obviously he's going to be focusing a lot on that economy. And I would think that if you're Viper here, especially playing against the HRE, you know that at some point you're going to have to contest those relics.
Oh yeah.
Possibly your best option is to go for like a long Dark Age into a Castle Age straight away, because that could possibly match the Castle Age timing of an HRE player, because you do have a great food eco with the farms. So
oh yeah.
You could essentially match the fast castle of an HRE player, and then you just play essentially Night Wars and base your strategy on the fact that your food eco is a lot more sustainable than the one for the HRE, because you already have your farms set up and they will work until eternity. Whereas for the HRE, at some point they will have to transition to farms, and that's where their weakness is going to come in.
Yeah, certainly. And well, you talked about relics. As far as the relic placement goes, this is one of the most even relic splits I think I've ever seen. Both players have like a relic just outside the periphery of their bases, and then there's 3 relics right down the middle as well. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. The gods here, Aachen Chapel coming in. Going to be getting the preacher with his megaphone, shouting out these sermons to the nearby villagers. But it hits the gold, it hits the wood, as well as the food. So it's certainly one of the best feelings when you can get that with the Holy Romans. And of course, England going for the early farm aggression, I guess you could say. They do have the aggressive farms coming up. Is going to be a little bit later in terms of hitting the feudal ages, but again, that food will scale up pretty heavily as they approach the castle age.
Yeah, indeed. That was a beautiful Aachen Chapel there for MarineLorD, as you pointed out. Whereas on the other side, this is sort of becoming the norm for many English players, actually. Rather than going for that super aggressive feudal age push, it's more about delaying feudal a lot and just focusing on setting up that economy as much as possible. So Viper was pretty heavy on the farming. He has also grabbed wheelbarrow already, which is not something that MarineLorD has gotten yet. So that's going to give him a pretty decent edge as well in eco. And I think the big question will be how many villagers Viper will use to build that landmark going up to feudal. Because that's going to be a very strong indication for you to tell whether he really wants to get to feudal age soon and wants to do anything in feudal, or he's going full castle age here. If he's going full castle, he will only use like 1 or 2 villagers to build that landmark with.
Oh, it looks like these scouts of the Viper get a little bit close. He might lose one to the TC here, which would be pretty unfortunate for sure, giving MarineLorD the advantage in the scout duel, but it looks like he's just barely able to get away there. Aachen Chapel is going to be coming down here in just a moment, and will the Viper see that? Looks like that one scout might be able to get him. He's moving up, and the scout, is it going to get the pick? Oh man, that was close. He just regenerated barely enough HP right there. That was yeah, quite a little escape he had, but we do have the feudal age here for the Holy Romans. In the English, just running around with their wheelbarrows, farming like champs, and banking their way up. And yeah, I would imagine we don't see, this is something else I was thinking about, so we don't really see the Haggard Dark Age aggression from the English men-at-arms against Holy Romans, probably because of the Prelate, right? The Prelate can heal the villagers through its DPS.
Yeah,
That's why we don't see that? Yeah.
That's exactly it. In fact, Viper was playing
really
HRE
funny.
against Beastie in the winner's bracket, and Beastie tried that men-at-arms opening against Viper, and Viper just had the Prelate heal up his villagers. So
That's pretty funny, dude.
I really get the feel that the reason why you're not pushing up with that men-at-arms with the English against the HRE is because you know that he can heal up his villagers anyways.
Yeah, yeah. Now, in your experience of seeing gold in the Golden League, who was the innovator of the early English farming system with the wheelbarrow? Was there someone who like kind of came up with that, or was it just something that kind of spread amongst all the players?
I think it's something that was started by multiple people.
Got
There
it.
isn't really a single person that just designed that build as it is. It was
So there's
more
no like,
like multiple people starting to take ideas from each other. I think Amista was one of the first people to try and experiment with this type of an approach, though, like
Yeah.
this delayed feudal age. But it's
Very
something
cool.
essentially a work by multiple people. Viper finishing up that council hall right now with 3.
Yeah, and it looks like we don't have any longbowmen coming out right away, so I think it's really going to be a clear-cut case. He's got quite a bit on gold as well. Typically, if you're going to be seeing English feudal aggression all in, you'll see a lot of the gold workers pulled onto wood to support the battering ram infrastructure, but it looks like in this case it's going to be a fast castle, probably, King's Palace from the English here, and pro scouts coming in from the Holy Romans, which I think on Hill and Dale is pretty good, especially considering you have it like right there, and then you have one right outside your base. So this is kind of like old school Holy Romans, man. Just going to be super fast castle, and I do love the horseman pick from Holy Romans. I think going stables in the feudal age is super strong because not only do you get scouts for the pro scouts, but also you can get some horsemen for map control to make sure that your prelates can get in position where they want to be, and then you can immediately get knights. Whereas men at arms require upgrades, right? So it takes a little bit longer to get your bang for your buck from those guys.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And it is a very much old school type play over here for MarineLorD, but in this scenario it's great because obviously he wouldn't get the prelate's inspiration on those hunt if he just built a mill around it, so he can ferry into the air and he can maximize the efficiency of that otherwise wonderful Aachen Chapel. And of course, as you pointed out, he can start setting himself up with some level of map control using the horseman, because one of the most underappreciated things is that, let's say that you get to Castle Age, you don't just want to start making knights and then pick up the relics when the knights secured them for you.
Yeah.
You want to start picking up relics the moment you hit Castle Age, so you need some level of map control to secure that you need some level of map control to pick those up, and you need to secure that first. You can do that with some horsemen at least, prevent the enemies from completely just picking off undefended prelates.
Yeah, and most Holy Roman players are going to be building additional prelates as they progress to the Castle Age and or have already done it beforehand. So then they're just kind of camping. They set up their little campfires and marshmallows, all that good stuff, and eventually just bring back the relics as soon as you get there. And now we see a scout harassing a prelate, which, eventually would get there, death by 1,000 blows. But since the Holy Romans do have that horse action here on the battlefield, they're going to be able to harass and probably pull back and most likely defend that prelate before the scout's able to bring him down.
Yeah, interesting move over here. Oh, the boar was aggro. That's very clever. Viper is aggroing the boar over here. He knows he can't kill the prelate directly. So what he's going to do is aggro the boar, because the boar always attacks the nearest unit that a human player controls. So he at least that was his idea. The boar got de-aggroed in the process, but
Yeah.
his idea was to pull that boar close to the prelate and essentially just disengage with the horsemen so the boar would finish off the prelate. First relic now coming in for MarineLorD, but Viper denied the second one, it seems.
And it does indeed look like MarineLorD has gotten to the good old Castle Age. He has his first relic coming back from the west, if I'm not mistaken, and it's going to be dropped off at the Regnant's Cathedral, unless I missed it. Nope, it is there, and the man's bringing it back. I mean, if you get 2 relics going in there, he's actually going to be going Men-at-Arms pretty heavily here. Okay, I'm pretty excited for this. Men-at-Arms are a pretty decent answer when upgraded, of course, especially with the first armor upgrade against ranged, against the English. Like, Men-at-Arms will handle their spearmen, it'll handle their longbows, and if you get the marching drills, you can just really, really push them back to their base.
Yeah, in the long run, the Men-at-Arms is the great choice over here. Looks like a villager got picked off by the horsemen, by MarineLorD. Nice little value for himself. You also will need a couple of men-at-arms to deal with this force of spearmen longbows right now, because that knight isn't going to crack it, and it looks like the prelate sneaks out over here. Viper knows about that prelate being there, but of course, the prelate also recently received a buff when it comes to movement speed, so this guy is just going to easily outrun those longbows.
Yeah, he's got some wheels, man. He's hustling for sure. And apparently in those ancient monasteries, they trained them in the way of track and field. But he is going to be running away from those scouts there. But it also did pull away the main force of the Viper from the front of the base, allowing MarineLorD to gather a couple of men-at-arms and get a critical mass of good units he needs to push back the English here. Now, England is pretty close to getting Castle Age as well. Only like 50 more food, and they're going to be able to get King's Palace, and I think it's going to be a relatively even game here going into the Castle Age. It looks like neither player has like a massive lead or a big discrepancy in terms of villagers or military. Seems pretty calm across the realm.
Yeah, the question is how many relics MarineLorD is going to be able to secure, because as you pointed out, Viper is just now aging up to Castle Age. partly
Oh, yeah.
being delayed by the fact that his gold mine was harassed quite a bit. And MarineLorD is already adding men-at-arms here, so when it comes to building up his ideal Castlage unit composition, he's one step ahead compared to Viper. So that's gonna be an interesting factor to look at. And it looks like MarineLorD is also moving for the relics that are further away from him. He's yet to collect the one right next to him, though, because Viper is focusing on denying that.
Yeah, it looks like Friar Tuck is able to get that relic. Good to be bringing it back to the base right now. I would say if there's like a minor advantage maybe for any of the players here at this state of the game, I would say I think MarineLord's slightly ahead. I mean, you can look at the military for both players. Obviously, MarineLord's military is more advanced, being Castle Age. The economic, base is kind of similar. We have 34 against 34, but look at the food per minute for MarineLord with that Aachen Chapel just going ham back there. He's actually at 1,300, whereas the Viper is only at about 500, even considering his farms. A lot of that is because he's having to build his Castle Age landmark with all those villagers, but I think that MarineLord might be able to get some decent map control here with his Castle Age advantage and the Regnitz, which is partially online. It's not a fully armed and operational Regnitz, but I mean, it's still generating some decent gold. And there's men-at-arms and knights in the English base.
Yeah, and that's the problem right now for Viper. He's got that second town center up, which is nice and cool, but it's going to take some time until he can capitalize on that. Whereas for MarineLord, he's building up his army right now, he's grabbing those relics, and as you pointed out, in the long run, the English farming eco will be great. So for MarineLord, he needs to make his push very soon, and that's exactly what he's doing. He's pushing the gold mine, he's pushing the villagers on the food, and Viper just taps out. He's being overrun.
Yeah, I mean, there was like 7 or 8 men-at-arms there. There was a knight. There was also a couple men-at-arms and knights up in the north harassing the farm lines. And, though the English farms are nice, there wasn't that many of them. And the Aachen farming situation is insane. I mean, getting that huge 40% multiplier on the gathering rate and the amount you return, he was able to just get so far ahead. And England just hit the third age, which means their units were still kind of in the potato age via being feudal. And yeah, there was Castle Age men-at-arms with upgrades and knights just doing everything. And also he got 2 relics off the map during that. So MarineLord just putting on an absolute clinic here, man, with a 2-0 victory here